pirate's life. That's all I gotta tell you. Pirate's life. Okay? Freaking pirate's life, man. Going forward, pirate's life. What does it mean? What does that freaking mean? Well, you can't be walking on eggshells. You can't live your life following the unspoken rules of society. You just can't do it. You will never, you're not going to get ahead, dude. You're not going to get ahead, and it's going to beat you to a pulp where you don't have the confidence and the mental fortitude to withstand risk and just like embarrassment, right? Like, you can't live your life walking on eggshells. You can't do it. If you walk on eggshells, you're going to get run over, man. That's a very big thing I wish I would have been aware of and maybe practiced earlier on. In my high school years, I remember there would be like a girl that goes up to the lunch table and she tries talking to me and she's clearly flirting with me, but my young, dumb high school mind didn't understand how to talk to a girl. This is sort of that conditioning growing up where I was trained to be a nice guy, where I thought that I needed to make other people feel comfortable. Thought that I had to be careful not to offend people. I wasn't really sure how to like just be myself. You know, it was like a learning thing. I wasn't sure, so I was walking on eggshells my whole teenage years. All right, we moved. Better scenery. We got the Phoenix and Ferb yard. I think it's good for every guy. Just keep a freaking notebook around. I don't do no diary, none of that stuff. You can journal, okay? You can, this is what's going on in my head. I don't know about you guys, but that's never really been super helpful to me. Of course, we're all different. For me, I like to capture ideas. I like to capture different things I want to talk about, different ideas that I maybe want to implement, something new here and there, different goals. You know, that's what I use this for. Capture ideas, but never really to introspect. But if you want to do that, do it. I just don't find it that useful. So a couple of things on this idea, because, you know, you really do have to get over being so self-conscious. And again, you can't live by the unspoken rules of society. You can't walk on eggshells. You can't be afraid to offend or embarrass yourself. Okay? You don't need to worry about if people are always offended or comfortable. You'll never get what you want. If you're always worried about offending other people, if everything that you say is perfect, if you're going to be cringy, if you're going to offend someone, you're not going to make it, dude. You're not going to make it. I'm telling you. Like, you can't worry about people's, you can try to be, you're going to be good. That's what it comes down to. And that's the problem. Like, a lot of people don't understand, it's good to be righteous. You want to be a righteous person, man. Anyone that I come in contact with, anyone that's in the group, I want the best for them. Like, you have a disposition to do good to others. A lot of people don't, though. And they're very tricky, conniving, and snakish. And so they want to, and I don't know where this comes from, but I think you should make up your mind, like, to be a good person. You don't need to be conniving. You don't need to be a dickhead. All right? You be honest in your work. You be righteous in your ways. And you look out for other people. And then things just fall into your lap. That's just how it is. But a lot of times, you don't have a fundamental righteousness at your core, so you have to operate in a conniving, trickery sort of way. You act all the time like you're not real, and that's no way to live. And I'm truly mean that. Like, you have to be a good guy. We need more good men in this world, men that like care about other people. I don't know if it's the world that's made us like this. This pursuit of money, where we forgot that we are humans and we need to care about other people. Like, we need more good people, man. So, just be a good person and you really have nothing to worry about. Right? My dad was a lot like this, man. Billy Bob. His name was William, but people called him Billy Bob. 6'4", giant of a man, 300 pounds, probably a little more than 300 pounds. And everyone knew him at church. He was friends with the pastor. Everyone knew him at the flea market. He once had his own store. He would sell antiques. He would sell furniture. He would sell junk, dude. My dad could sell. And he was a righteous dude. You know, I think at the core, he was righteous, man. He believed in God. He wanted to set a good example. He cared for other people. I remember he used to go on missionary trips. He went to Dominica, and he brought back these two people. I remember Rudette and Loretta. That was their names. They lived with us for a month. Back then, this seems so freaking normal. My dad was a missionary for the church. He would go, brought these people back. We would just give them a bunch of gifts, give them some money, set them up. We were showing around. Dude, I remember the first time Rudette saw my Nintendo 64. This is what he said. He said, cheese and bread, man. He said, I don't know, this is a saying they had. He said, cheese and bread. He's like, this is, he thought it was black magic that I was playing Mario Kart 64 on the TV. He never seen this kind of thing ever in his life. He was just amazed by it. The foods we were eating, the freaking... I remember Loretta, his wife, she made this coconut milk, and she would freeze it, put it in the freaking freezer. Okay, it was like coconut milk with sugar, with like cardamom or something. It was a very delicious treat. But she would put it in the freezer, and me and my sister would troll our babysitter at the time, because they would open up the freezer and they would see these little bags of like this frozen stuff. She was like, what is this? We were like, it's our mom's breast milk. She freezes it and we eat it as popsicles, like popsicle breast milk. And we would just troll her. And I don't know if she ever found out that it wasn't actually breast milk. It was just coconut milk. Dad was a good dude, man. Missed the guy. He had a business called the Long Liquidators. And I would go to his store, I would help him. He had a truck, right? It said Long Liquidators. It would say Jesus is Lord across on this banner. And it said buy, sell, and trade. And we would go around to these freaking they would lift open the storage units, and he'd have his big flashlight, like humongous flashlight, just looking in there. My dad knew right away. He's like, nope, this got nothing in it. I don't even know how you could tell. He just did it hundreds of times. And you would bid on these storage units that people didn't stop paying for. And dude, it was like a freaking treasure hunt, because sometimes you would go in and I got all of our Christmas presents came from these storage units. All of them. Skateboard, freaking old Mongoose bikes, the scooters, the Razor scooters, all of our game systems. Dude, there was a point I had a Dreamcast, a PlayStation 1, and a Nintendo 64 all at once. It was a freaking amazing time. And he would have my dad literally hired hobos to help him. Ron and Jeremy and John. I think that was their names. And we once in Florida, this is back in Florida, we stayed in Florida. We had this giant backyard, and the freaking hobos, my dad would let them sleep there in the back. They were seriously homeless. This all seems so normal to me as a kid. You don't understand. Looking back, that it's funny to think about, but these guys were cool dudes. They were actually good dudes. And I think my dad set a good example. He paid them, they worked for him, gave them, a spot in the back. They would sleep in this old truck my dad used to have. And they bought us freaking birthday presents, man. They would save up their coinage and buy us some freaking birthday presents. I remember they would just be getting drunk, though, in the back at night. Just drinking beer, just laughing, hanging out. Completely normal. But anyway, Dad was a good guy. And I think that, just that willingness to be a good person. He didn't take himself too seriously. He stood for something. He wanted to be a good man. Had a family to provide for, to support. And I just saw people love him. Good dude. The reason I tell you about my dad is because, he my father, I'm the oldest son. I'm the oldest kid. And he had a giant impact on my life. I saw him go from this heroic individual in my life, this example, loving fatherly figure, and I saw him get beat down by life. I saw him go into a hole of his own. And I think it's because he took his eyes off of, I don't even know if it's, I can't even say it's took his eyes off God. I think the environment really impacted him. Like, my dad used to go to church. You guys have heard this story. Every Tuesday I'd go with him to men's prayer study. 15, 20 guys walking around the church, bowing their heads, and they would just pray for like 45 minutes to an hour. They would just pray. And then afterwards they would go out to eat. I never saw my dad this happy, dude. He was lit up. They were all cracking jokes, having fun, just living life. We would go to Steak and Shake. I would always get chicken tenders and their little steak fries, nasty little steak fries. But I loved it at the time, right? That was like the best moment. I think that's one reason that it's my goal to unite the men into the group that I have now. It's a men's group, and because there's power there, man. When men congregate, when we fellowship, there is power there. And society seems to have this way about it, conscious or not, to want to stamp that out of our lives, to get rid of this third space, to get rid of this time away from home, this time away from work, where you're with your tribe. You have competition, you have fellowship, you share stories, you share struggles, you share a good time, you make memories. I saw him go to this, and dude, he would just be better. Week after week, when he was doing this, he was better. When he was going to the flea markets, there was a little more pep in his step. He had this jovial attitude, right? He was always smiling, always loud, always charismatic, making deals left and right with people. He used to tell people, he's like, I got kids to feed. People would try to wheel and deal with him. He would negotiate with them. He's like, I'm selling it. I ain't renting it out, man. I got mouths to feed. I got 6 kids. And there's a point in the story where he got away from all that. He moved. We moved to Ohio. He stopped the flea markets. He lost his store. Someone, the landlord of his store, ended up selling it to some guy selling motorcycles. This was the beginning of the end for my dad. So he got away from his store. We moved to Ohio. It's cold up here. Florida's warm. You could do flea markets all year. You could do garage sales. He got away from the church, right? He got away from the people he knew, the pastor that he was friends with. Got away from his friends. He had no one. So he just took care of his family. He had to try to make it. I remember he started working night shift. Very lonely time. I remember I didn't know it. I was about 17 at this point, seeing my dad go through this. What I would give now to have a cigar with my dad. This isn't a pity thing. I'm just saying, real talk. I know a lot of you guys, I've talked to a lot of the guys in the group. I've actually sat down with the guys at meetups. And a lot of guys have problems with their father, man. It's a damn shame. What I would give to smoke a cigar with my dad, just shoot the shit as a grown man now, not as a teenager that only cared about himself and playing Call of Duty and going to the gym and hitting on girls. What I would give just to have a freaking conversation with them and treat them like a normal person and just to be there for them. And that's what I think we got to do. You know, I mean that, dude. We have to do this because our fathers need us. Our fathers are a lot like us. We are our fathers. Seriously, we're just them with internet access. I've said this before. It's so true, man. Our dads didn't have the Jordan Peterson. You know, our dads didn't have the red pill. Our dads didn't have the freaking Thumos group. Our dads didn't have all these guys online. They were at it alone with their group of friends, freaking riding around in a Chevy, listening to Sweet Cherry Pie. You know, like freaking smoking cigarettes and looking at Playboy magazines. They didn't have all this. They were just trying to figure this shit out, man. So they're imperfect, and just like we are. I think we need to be there for them. We need to stop looking at them as like, you know, they were kids. They got that kid in them, just like you got that kid in you. And maybe that kid in your father has been beat up, and he's been just pounded by the weight of existence and life and trying to provide and be there for a family in these chaotic times. And he needs you to be there for him. So be there for him. That's all, you know. That's all it is, man. Be there for your father. I truly believe that if men had other men in their life, they would be more victorious. They would have more spiritedness to them. I think we'd see way less people getting divorced if men didn't neglect that side of them that belongs in a tribe. I truly believe that. You would see way less divorcing because iron sharpens iron. The moment that you take a man away from his tribe, from a group that he can shoot the shit with, he can hang out with, he could, freaking compete with, that's when you see them, the spirit begins to wane. Even Jesus had his 12 disciples, man, for his whole ministry. He knew he wasn't going to be alone. When did the devil tempt him? When he was alone in the desert. What was that? 40 days, he's alone. That's when the devil comes to him. You can have all this. This is all yours. Right? That's when he was at his weakest, when he was alone. Same with Adam. Adam just had a woman by his side. Betrayed God for a freaking piece of fruit. There ain't no freaking way, dude. There ain't no freaking way. Eve was up to some mischievous Eve. You know, she said, "You ain't getting this puss, Adam." So there's something deeper going on, man. But I think that part of the reason we have so much of this mental torture is because we try to live in this society while walking on eggshells, obeying the unspoken rules, while also isolating ourselves. We stop relating. We stop being real. We lose a part of ourselves because ourselves, we discover who we are. Perhaps we discover a part of ourselves through other people seeing us, through our interactions with other men. We've eliminated the third space. We've eliminated deep conversation. Why do you think people love Joe Rogan so much, dude? Because it's a bunch of guys sitting around, smoking weed, smoking cigars, smoking or drinking whiskey, having fun, shooting the shit. It's like the modern day campfire. That's exactly what it is. Talking about philosophy. Talking about new ideas. Fun things. Talking about fighting, the games, the sports. This also often leads to action. It leads to being somebody. You know, maybe this leads to rebellion when other men talk. So, you know, I could see why it's not promoted, these spaces. So speak up, dude. I'm telling you what I learned in my life. Speak the hell up. Stop waiting for permission. all the time. This isn't some motivational speech, man. This is literally what you have to do. You will be taken advantage of if you are a nice guy because you think that being nice is the way to get what you want. It's not the way to get the girl. It's not the way to get a raise. It's not the way to get ahead. You have kindness in you because you are a good man. Because you see the bigger picture. You don't have anger boiling up in your heart. You don't have resentment and rage. You're just a good person. So naturally that overflows. Right? What is inside extends into the world around you. And this is a big thing for a lot of guys, because especially with women, like, you realize it's like a light bulb goes off in your head when you realize you've been being nice because you're deceitful. A lot of times you see with guys that have one-itis and they're falling for a girl pretty hard, they try to keep the chivalry up. They open the door. They think they need to do all this extra stuff. They need to have like all this excess stuff because they don't actually believe that a girl could like them and be interested in them, how they are. But it's not how it is, dude. You're good enough. The way that you like a girl and find her attractive, same way a girl is going to find you attractive. You don't need all this extra stuff. You don't need to elevate them, put them on this pedestal. You don't need to be overtly nice. You need to be you, truthfully. And a lot of times, who you are, you maybe have been running from. You are an aggressive individual. You are someone who wants to conquer. You have ambition. You do not like to do certain things. Sometimes you want to be left the hell alone. You know? With my girl, I got to tell her, like, I can't always hang out. I need my alone time. You got to set these things up from the get-go. She has to understand. You can't just go around trying to please everyone. Oh, someone wants you to hang out. Can't do it, man. I need my alone time sometimes. I can't always be available. Okay, so you gotta set these things up, these boundaries. Speak up. Use. I want to say this in a way like that you understand. Like, don't be afraid. Just stop all the freaking fear. The fear of thinking about the consequences of doing stuff. Like, be a good person and you won't go to jail and you won't hurt people. Okay, that's a given. But for everything else, stop feeling shame all the time. Stop feeling shame. Stop putting yourself in shame. You allow yourself to feel all the shame for what reason? It's just holding you back. You mess up here and there, you know, you feel shame. Why? Stop feeling shame, dude. Be a fucking man and live. Shame and guilt, those are chains. Dude, what's the point of living with all this shame? I refuse to feel shame unless, you know, I really messed up. Try to take an honest look. Did I go wrong? And if I did, then let me ask for forgiveness. Was I being mean for the sake of being mean, or was I righteous in the anger or in the way I was? You know? But you got to be real with yourself. But don't just put all these chains around yourself, man. As I'm sitting here making this vid, you know, I'm talking to you guys thinking, just ask me questions, okay? Like, if anything is confusing to you, I wish, and the reason we have a group is so that you can talk back to me through our voice chats, which is the heart of our community. The reason we have meetups, so not that you can meet me, I'm no one special, I'm just a man, but that we have this fellowship and we get to the bottom of things and we talk about real shit. That's what's important. So if you need context for any, you know, give me context for things that are going on in your life, maybe problems you're facing, these uncertainties you're dealing with. Let me hear about them, because that gives me something also to think about, which, you know, we can bounce back and forth. So please don't hesitate, man. Let me hear shit that you're dealing with. I like reading comments about that. I like hearing about your life, what you're going through. Shit is not easy. I get it. It's not easy. But all I can recommend is don't walk on eggshells. I know I've repeated and I will repeat it. Just have some courage, okay? There's this guy in our group, Fabian. I mention him a lot. He's my friend, and he's a good man, and he's very good at bringing the men together. And one thing he said is, like, if you don't have anything, if you don't got any guys or a lot going for you, just be the guy that creates a good vibe. He's very good at this, creating a great vibe, getting people involved. Instead of worrying about yourself all the time, how you're being perceived, if people like you, just be the person that creates a good vibe, that makes other people feel comfortable and at home. Make sure they're having a good time. You'll naturally be likable, right? Make sure other people are having a good time. Include people. See what they want to listen to. See what they want to talk about. See what they're interested in. But also be relatable, you know? There's too many guys that are faking it. I've seen it myself, man. That's why I do these talks. They're kind of longer form because I enjoy them so much, because I don't want to be someone that just talks and tells you do this and do that, because, dude, I'm just a man, right? We have to be able to relate. We need more people being humble enough to be relatable. We're not saints. We're not gods. We're just men. We need more men fellowshipping, communicating, starting rebellions, revolting against modern things and the ways of life. It's like a coaxing, like going gently into that night, doling the sword. We have to keep each other sharp, right? We got to stand for something. And so stop being just worried about yourself and be relatable, bring good vibes, be a good-hearted person. That's what really matters. That's what really matters. You'll see the fruits. You know, as you sow, you shall reap. The seeds you cast out there, man. It says in the Bible, like, if you're a spoiled fig tree or something, you guys can quote the verse, please. But you're going to bear bad fruit. You can tell by the individual what kind of fruit is he bearing. So bear good fruit. Be good at your core. What we have in our heart, we build with our hands. I've always liked that. That's a quote from the metal band August Burns Red. We build with our hands what we have in our hearts. So protect the heart, protect the mind, protect the spirit. Okay, because the world will corrupt it if you let it. If you don't safeguard it. I've seen what it's done to my father. I see when you get away from friendship. I've seen when you take your eyes off God, when you isolate yourself, when you fall to drugs, when you cope. I've seen how it could ruin them. Be there for your fathers, because they need you. All right? That's all for today, man. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Hope you have a blessed day. Keep the Thumos going, all right? Protect the spirit. Talk to you soon. Peace.